Hello, good evening. Welcome to the final whistle. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Well, the final score here this evening, Southampton 1, Manchester City 4. Dean Hammond and Joe Prince-Wright are back with us to discuss that defeat. Dean, we'll come to you first. What did you make of that Southampton performance?
Well, a tough result to take, really. But Man City in the second half, in particular, were fantastic. Really, I think you have to applaud that and appreciate what a good team they are. But also give Southampton credit because in the first half it was pretty even. It really was, and they played to a really good shape. They showed good discipline and energy in terms of their performance. Created opportunities. I wouldn't say chances, but opportunities, and asked some questions of Man City. Defended very well as a team and limited Man City to opportunities and not chances again. So that was a positive. Really frustrated Man City in that first half, really. So going in at 1-0 down just before the half-time whistle was difficult because if you can get to half-time at 0-0, it potentially gives you a lift and gives you a little bit more energy going into the second half. And I think that goal just before half time just deflated the Southampton players because in the second half, I don't know if Man City stepped it up another one or two gears or Southampton just dropped off a little bit. They looked a little bit lethargic in that second half, especially when the second goal went in and the third goal went in. But credit to the Southampton players, they kept going, got a goal back, but then you look at the level Man City were at because their response to conceding a goal was to go and get another goal and make the game even more comfortable for them. So there's a gap in quality, but you'd expect that with the money they've invested in the players and the quality that Man City have, their squad they have. But the effort from the Southampton players was there. But when you play Man City and the game gets stretched and the pitch gets big and there's gaps between the lines and the units as the defence and the midfield and the strikers become bigger and bigger, quality players exploit that, and Man City did that. But credit to Southampton because in that first half, I thought for the first 40 minutes they were brilliant and they matched Man City. So you have to take the positives out of that. Mara coming on and scoring a goal again is a positive for his career at Southampton. We spoke before the game that he needed that. It was an excellent finish. So there's a couple of positives out of the game, but this result today and this performance today is not going to define Southampton's season. So you just have to move on, really. But first half good, second half, Man City just stepped it up and showed the gap in quality.
Joe, you were obviously watching on from the stands here. What was your overall assessment of the match?
Yeah, Dean put it very nicely there. In the first half, there was really very little between the teams. I think Saints had a few opportunities when Kamaldeen Sulemana went clean through from the halfway line and then couldn't make the most of that opportunity. It was good defending and then another chance just before City scored where whipped it towards the far post. And I think it was just a game of nearlies for Southampton. They got themselves into some great positions, worked really hard. But then we're seeing the lack of a clinical striker, the lack of Shea Adams being out injured, and just asking players to do things that aren't really their strength. There's a lot of players that they're good creators, but they're not clinical. They're not used to scoring a lot of goals. And it was a really tough ask for them. But I think most Saints fans were delighted with the first 35, 40 minutes. And it was just it was a crushing blow to concede right on half time the way they did. And really just knocked the stuffing out of them, gave City confidence and belief. Because Pep Guardiola on the sidelines in front of us here on this side of the stadium, he was not happy with that first half display. And Dean mentioned it there. It was solid. It was a really, really good system and shape they had and very disciplined across the pitch. But as soon as those gaps started to open up and you start to give a bit more space to the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Jack Grealish, who's in great form right now, and then you have Haaland, he only had about, 12, 13 touches, I think, in the game, and 2 of them were goals. I mean, he's just absolutely ruthless, clinical. And Man City right now, they won 5 straight games in the Premier League, 8 in all competitions, and they are flying. So it's a bad time to play them. But Dean mentioned it. This isn't the kind of game where Saints' season is going to be defined. That's all about next week at home against Crystal Palace. Those are the games you have to win if you want to stay in the Premier League. So got to take some positives. Fortunepo was really good when he came on, and Mara as well. So I guess those two would hope they could play Man City every week because they've been really good against them this season with the goals and assists and being involved in that. But I'd love to see that bit of energy in the final third. And whatever Ruben Sellers does this week, he's got to find some combinations in the final third of the pitch to get something going ahead of this big game against Palace. But there were some positives to take there, but the gap in quality and the players that Man City have at their disposal, just a little bit too much for Saints today.
Dean, we wondered before the game how the front four would line up, and it ended up being Kamaldeen Sulemana and Charlie Alcaraz up top. And as Joe said, Sulemana did have a great opportunity when he ran the length of the pitch in the first half. But what did you make of those two?
Well, Sulemana was the biggest threat, really, with his pace and his direct approach. And he had moments in that first half. You mentioned that when he broke in that first half from a corner of Man City, he showed his pace. And I think a little bit more belief in himself in that moment. I think he goes past Ake. I don't think Ake gets back at him, but he kind of hesitates but gets himself. Maybe he wanted to do that, and that was his plan, to get him in a one-on-one situation, slow him down, and then go again. And he did almost get that half a yard, but just as he was trying to settle himself on his left foot, he took a little bit of a touch, an additional touch with his left foot, and kind of run out of space. But those are the kind of moments that he was creating. He had a moment on the right-hand side where I can't remember the Man City defender who went past, but he made him look silly, and he flashed the ball across the box. Joe mentioned it just before Man City scored. He got himself in a position again where is it a shot? Is it a cross? I think it's in between both. Again, I think a little bit more belief in himself. He takes that on and try and curls it to the back post. But the front four were very disciplined. And I think that's why in the first half we were able to frustrate Man City, because they got back into shape really quick. They covered spaces, they covered gaps, they tracked runners. And we just played on the counter-attack, really. But it was very, very even. So the rotation of those four players worked in moments. Elyounoussi put a really good ball into the box where Alcaraz almost got his head on it. Alcaraz, again, at the beginning of the game, flashed the ball across the box. But I suppose the disappointment, I don't think it's a disappointment, but let's use disappointment, is their opportunities. They're not chances. They're not really working the goalkeeper. They're not getting the crowd off their seats. They're not almost attempts at goals. So we got into some good positions, but just no killer instinct. No one making those runs across the box. No natural goal scorer is going to get in a position and anticipate a cross or anticipate a pass. But the game plan in the first half worked. Second half, a little bit more difficult because Man City just had more possession of the ball. Southampton were camped in. And like I say, the pitch got stretched. So there wasn't as much support, not chances to make those combinations to create chances. So they did okay. And like you say, unnatural positions for them. But they did okay in moments for Southampton today.
Manchester City dominated possession in the first half, but it did take until the 45th minute for them to take the lead. Joe, was there much Southampton could have done about that one?
I'm not sure, Kenzie. It was just the initial ball came in. It was like half cleared. And then I think Saints could have maybe just kept it a bit better. They started to get a bit tired at the end of the first half with City, the way they were switching the ball and keeping it, and they stopped connecting those first couple of passes to get them out of their own final third and get them up the pitch. So I think there was a couple of times there where they could have just used the ball a bit better. Man City won it back. Great ball by Grealish out to Kevin De Bruyne. And then you've got to get a bit tighter to Kevin De Bruyne. I think that's my one criticism. He did get a lot of space often, but he's very good, obviously, in finding those little gaps and just, it was a perfect cross into the box. I don't really blame any of the defenders in the middle of the box, because De Bruyne, once he whips that wand of a right foot on it, there's little you can do to stop that kind of ball. And Haaland was just there ready and waiting to head it home, and he nearly scored just before that at the back post where he towered over James Ward-Prowse, but he made sure of it the second time. So I think, again, I mentioned it, that was the crucial blow for Saints. That was the one that really gave Man City the confidence to go on and kick on in the second half. But if I'm being ultra critical, you have to get closer to Kevin De Bruyne to stop that cross initially. And before that, you probably just have to keep the ball and just a little bit more composure, I think, was what would have stopped that. But, it's the quality Man City possess, right? Grealish and De Bruyne and Haaland, just absolutely sensational. And you just have to hold your hands up sometimes. And I see Kevin De Bruyne down there on the side of the pitch doing some post-match interviews. And honestly, it was a pleasure to watch him play today, because he was sensational and picked up perfect spaces in the second half in particular to rip Saints to shreds.
As for City's next two goals, Dean, Jack Grealish scored and then turned provider for Haaland's acrobatic effort, and then the game was effectively done.
It is, Steve. But Joe's touched on it there. I just think that the second goal in particular came from Southampton actually having a free kick. Is where Haaland gets booked and Bella is off the pitch and comes back onto the pitch. And James Ward-Prowse just plays a sideward pass. And we actually end up probably 30 yards back from where the ball was at Bella feet, who's just come back onto the pitch. He plays a long ball forward. Man City regain possession, and we're then out of shape, and the game is stretched. So it comes from probably a indecisive decision from Southampton, a negative choice that ends up Man City scoring and ends up at Kevin De Bruyne's feet. He gets on the half turn. Lavia gets attracted to the ball, can't quite get to De Bruyne. It's a brilliant pass to Jack Grealish. It really is. And his timing of his movement is really good today because he played right on the line there, almost offside. But once he's one-on-one in that situation, great strike, really good save from Bazunu. It is but just can't react to the rebound, and it's a calm finish from Grealish with the outside of his foot. And then the next goal is where again it's just a little bit stretched. Southampton are still trying to press Man City, still trying to win the ball back to create something, but the triangle passes that Man City had today, the movement, the 1 and 2 touches, they end up getting the ball to Kevin De Bruyne again. Lovely pass to Jack Grealish, one-on-one with Bednarak, I think this time, shows him inside. Lovely lofted pass to Haaland, and I mean the finish is incredible, really. The technique, the timing, puts it right into the corner, and brilliant finish. And he's so good in those positions. He's clinical. Joe said he had 12 touch, 13 touches to those, scored 2 goals and got booked. So he's not having huge impact on the game in every moment, but at the right moment he scores when he gets chances. Probably 2 or 3 chances a day, he gets 2 goals. So it was difficult. Once Man City are 2-0 up, 3-0 up, it is really a game over. But Southampton kept going, got the goal back, but those 2 goals really did kill the game.
Joe, Ruben Sellers brought on Musa Djenepo and Sekou Mara off the bench, and they combined really well for what was actually a really nice goal.
Yeah, it was a sensational goal. Obviously, Musa Djenepo cut inside with a lovely mazy run. The way he got past 2 or 3 different Man City players there was incredible. And that's kind of what Saints have been calling out for the entire game. And quite frankly, the last few weeks, Dean mentioned it there, a lot of sideways passes, a lot of safe passes, a lot of cautious play, but you're not going to get that with Musa Djenepo. I don't know if he knows what he's going to do sometimes when he picks up the ball, and that's great. That's a great quality to have in the final third. And it was lovely to see. There was a great roar around the stadium. You thought, okay, they get another one, maybe it's interesting. And with the Tottenham game recently in mind, but it was a lovely finish from Sekou Mara. You asked me about him before the game, and those are the kind of chances he hasn't really had put on a plate for him all season long. So it was great to see he's got that composure, that clinical ability, and a lovely first-time finish as well. So I think instinctively he's a very good finisher. Just have to get him in more of those kind of situations. But fair play to Musa Djenepo and Sekou Mara. They could have come on and just gone through the motions and worked hard, but they both came on, made an impact, looked like they really wanted to get Saints back in the game. It looked like they might have done that. But then, of course, the Man City got another one straight away. But I think that's a big positive for Ruben Sellers to take away from today, that there are players in the final third who are taking these chances he's given them. And I'm intrigued to see how it's going to line up against Crystal Palace next week, because he has a lot of options. Maybe Shea Adams is back as well from injury for that game. But it's just, for me, a little glimpse of if you could do that against defenders as good as Man City, in the case of Djenepo and Mara, then there is hope against teams further down the league that Saints still have to play, that they have those individual talents that can make the difference, that they obviously need to pick up points between now and the end of the season to keep themselves in the Premier League. So, yeah, I love Musa Djenepo. I love his ability to pull something out of nothing, and he certainly did it with that run. And I was really pleased with Sekou Mara because I think he's getting better and better as the season has gone on, and Saints have a really, really good young striker there.
Dean, you spoke earlier about City showing their quality and how they responded to conceding a goal. Well, that came in the form of a penalty. And any complaints in the decision from you?
No, not really, Steve. I think it's a penalty. I think it's tired defenders really, and Kyle Walker-Peters and Bednarak, and good movement from Kevin De Bruyne. But for me, it's a penalty. As soon as you go to ground in a penalty area and you don't have any contact on the ball, then you're always going to give a penalty away. But again, it came from just that class of Man City. They don't panic. You know, they've conceded a goal, but what do? They continue to pass the ball. They continue to attack. They continue to keep possessions. They look for that opening, which they did. It was lovely 1-2 touch football. It must have been 10, 15 passes to get into that moment. Kevin De Bruyne starts it and ends it, really, continues his run into the box. So, no, it's Southampton players being honest, trying to win the ball, trying to do the best for their team. But I think just weary and tired legs physically and mentally from playing against a top side. And then it's a really good finish from the penalty. Bazunu has no chance. And Man City finished the game comfortably, really. We all had a little bit of hope at 3-1. Could we get a goal and come back into it like we did against Tottenham? But that's why Man City are a difference. You know, even the difference to Tottenham, because they continue to do what they do and have world-class players. So, yeah, no complaints from the decision from me.
Well, looking at results elsewhere, Bournemouth, West Ham and Wolves all picked up wins this afternoon, but Southampton still 4 points from safety as they were at the start of the day, and a win against Crystal Palace next week would put us just 1 point from safety. Joe, it's remarkably tight down the bottom of that table. Next week's fixture does feel incredibly crucial, doesn't it?
It does, Kenzie. I feel like we've said that so often in recent weeks and months. Is this the game where Saints are going to drag themselves back towards the rest of the league? And it has to be. There is no other way to put it. It has to be a win against Crystal Palace at home next week. If you win that, other results go your way. You're only 1 point from safety with that'll be 7 games to go after that. There's a chance. There is a chance there, but it has to be a win next week. And I saw enough in this first half today. I'm looking at Pep Guardiola's comments after the game, and he's saying how impressed he is with Southampton. First half, they made it so difficult for us, had a great game plan. If you can do that for 45 minutes against Manchester City, no disrespect to Crystal Palace and Bournemouth and Fulham and other games that you have coming up against Nottingham Forest, if you play that well against those teams, you are going to pick up 2-3 wins that can get you to safety. Maybe they need more than that. Probably will do. Probably is going to be 36 plus points. But there is hope here after watching this game today. And if Shea Adams is back, that's a huge boost. Alcaraz, Sulemana were big pluses. And I still have hope as a Southampton fan and a lifelong Saints fan. I've seen them in a lot worse positions than this back at the Dell when I was first going to games in the Premier League in the early 90s and the mid 90s. And there's that spirit there, that belief. And there's an acceptance here today. Man City were the better team. They are the better team. They're at the top of the Premier League table and fighting for the title with Arsenal for a very good reason. But now Southampton have to take the positives and move on as quickly as possible from this game and just take the performance and the individual moments where they showed real quality. And in a weird way, the more I talk about it, this had a lot of positives today. Had a lot of positives going into this run-in. But as I said, has to be 3 points against Crystal Palace. I don't care how they do it. Could be the most boring game in the world, a 1-0 win, own goal, whatever. It just has to be a win. That's it. That is the season right there. And if they win, the entire fan base, the players, the club give belief, and all the other teams around Saints down the bottom will start worrying as well. So as you can tell, I'm pretty fired up about Crystal Palace at home next weekend.
Yeah, I think we all are, Joe. You know, it is a massive one, Dean. How are you feeling ahead of next weekend?
Well, it's that, Kenzie. It's a massive game of football, and it's there's no hiding away from it. There's no shying away from it. It's a game where Southampton have to look to win and take the game to Crystal Palace, create an atmosphere at home. We all need to be involved in that. The crowd, everyone supporting Southampton, prepare well for the week. But if you look at it, look, like we've all said, there's 4 points. That's not a huge gap. It's 4 points difference, really. 8 games left. I think maybe 4 wins and a draw will keep you in the Premier League. So it's not impossible to be able to do that if you break that down. You know, 4 of those victories, three teams we've got to play around us as well. Identify those games. That starts with Crystal Palace on Saturday. So if you can just knock them off one individual at a time. So how close can we get to the team out of the relegation zone? That starts by beating Crystal Palace. Hopefully Shea Adams is back. That will be a boost. Mara's scored today. Joe's put it brilliantly. When he gets in those positions, actually goal scoring positions, he's pretty ruthless. He's pretty instinctive as well. It looks quite natural to him. So it's for him to be able to get in them positions and the players around him to create those opportunities. As a team, we're looking as though we can create more opportunities by the way we're playing. because we're playing the front foot, we're pressing more, there's more energy, the game plan's better. So it's all set up there for a big game and for the Southampton win. So one game at a time. Can we beat Crystal Palace? If we do, then it's game on to the rest of the season, and then it keeps it exciting for everyone supporting Southampton.
Good stuff. Well, Dean, Joe, thank you so much again for joining us here today on Saints Live and on the Final Whistle. Well, we march on, but we're staying at St Mary's next week as Crystal Palace are the visitors on Saturday. We'll be back with another Saints Live then, so enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend and we'll see you soon.
Bye for now.